Welcome to Empowered by AI, the podcast for women entrepreneurs ready to harness AI to take their businesses to the next level. I'm your host, Michelle Muncy-Silva, founder of Innovative AI Studios. You may have left corporate life to start this entrepreneurial journey, but you don't have to go it alone. Here, you'll find a supportive community of like-minded women and an invaluable thought partner each week, as my guests and I share actionable insights you can use right away. So let's dive in together. So let's take that moment right there and let's just dive in and say your career journey is really what we want to kick off with. So can you share what led you to where you're at right now?
Right. My journey is, it's funny when on the morning of the 31st of December, and I suddenly realized it was New Year's Eve, I was like, let me take a moment to reflect on this past year, because we don't take a lot of time to stop sometimes and celebrate where we've come. And I honestly was in shock and awe because I only actually started dabbling in AI in end of April of 2024. Prior to that, I had been focused on my coaching. I had left corporate. I was in corporate for 25 plus years, marketing, sales, human resources. I refused to name burnout, but I was more than burnout. It was like life or death kind of situation. It's the dark moment of the soul where you suddenly like, wait a second, the wrong path. And so I had quit. I left. I sold my house in the city. I moved to the country, closer to nature. Was a whole mindset shift that got me there. And I had gone into coaching and I loved it because for management, my skills in coaching, it was just natural. I always wanted people to succeed. It's like, where are your strengths? What do you love? What are you good at? Not what you think you should do. I had spent my whole life going, well, I should do this. I should prepare for the future. One day I'm going to get to enjoy life. And I have so many divots that it goes to, but it blew up in my face about 2 years ago. And I think the whole dream I'd spent 20 years building collapsed when my husband decided that the choice I had made did not please him and that it was an ultimatum. And I chose this path to continue my growth and who I wanted to be and stop putting my life on hold for everybody else's dreams. I want to support other people's dreams, but not at the cost of my own. And so I was doing coaching and it was okay. I think a lot of us in this industry, when we move into being an entrepreneur, we have a lot of our own transformation to work through of worth, of doubt, of who am I and who do I think, and can I really do this? And all the saboteur voices screaming, and we think it's actually our voice, right? We're listening to it. And I had heard what was going on with AI. And for me, I'm a big believer in, I want to know how to use a tool before I'm used by it. So it was more kind of intrigue. I was like, what is this thing? Because I know it's not going away. Like as soon as it happened, we're like, this is the new world of tag and it's coming. Like I heard snippets and I'd seen some people online and mutual who you've had on the guest, Deanna and Carrie, and they were all making images. And I was like, what is this? What is this thing? What are they doing? And I actually thought it was going to be the death of creativity. It was going to be the end of humanity. Like I did not go into AI with an open embrace at all. I was very weary and, whoa, this is bad. But I said, I need to understand it. I need to understand what I can do. So I took in the Secret AI Society, I did a beta, and there was just something while I was reconnecting to the creative side of me that I had let settle dust on for so many years, like an actual passion, a natural passion that I always had. Things I worked as design. We had a construction company. I did design for fun on the side, like full on redos of homes. And I had a little Etsy shop and I worked with a textile design company for many years as a sales manager. And so I always had elements of creative, but I was always in the process, not the creative side of it. Even when I ran marketing teams, I was signing off. I didn't get to actually create it. I was like, here's the vision, go make it. And I started doing that and it snowballed. I was like, oh my God, this is fun. And I realized with my coaching that I could be more successful branding and supporting coaches and entrepreneurs to launch their brands and work through the mindset. Because realistically, whether we want to admit it or not, if you're not at a certain level, there's a huge amount of mindset behind it. Why are we holding back? Why are we not singing from the rooftops what we have? And when I stepped into what was right for me, I was no longer worried about celebrating and saying, hey, I've got this great offer. Hey, look what we can do. And as I was doing that, and as I got deeper, and as I said, it's such a long story, but I ended up becoming an AI brand strategist with Secret AI Society. And many of the women who come through are of that age that are lifting that second act, right? Like, not that it's all, but there's a huge percentage that are like 40, 45, 50 plus, 60, 70. And all these women coming together and supporting each other and celebrating. And I lost my mother. She lost the battle with mental health. And it's when I'm always speaking, I want to speak to that woman before they get to where she was. And knowing that at any age you are, to me, AI is almost eradicating ageism in the marketplace. There's no more barrier that, oh, I'm 50 now. If I lose my job, what do I do? Learning tools. And you can either be, because companies, I got hired at Secret AI Society. I'm going to be 51 this year. And it's not that it's the fact that I know how to use those tools, but also all that I bring the experience, I don't regret a single snafu or path that I've been on because it has given me the tools that I know now. And so when I joined and I was more and more involved in doing the AI brand strategist, that message and mission to let women know what's possible for them, how they can access these tools, how they can finally fill their own cups and do something they love that's accessible, you don't have to go and take like a university 4-year program. Learn the tools and the sky is the limit. And so creative aging came with it is like, okay, I left in my own direct lemonade branding, but I'm like, this message I am not giving up on. I am not going to stop singing from the mountaintops. I'm not going to stop showing different perspectives. And so the idea of creative aging came out because I'm like, there's such a massive, and I'm going to give an example. My sister, who's 2 years older than me, you can do your own math. I won't say her age, but she's in a job, amazingly smart woman, and she runs processes. And there's a potential out there that how long will this career last for her? And she's nervous. And I keep saying, Bree, learn about AI in the domain you love. Like I'm in the creative zone. Oh my God. She's like more cybersecurity process. And I'm like, if you allow yourself to learn these tools, there's no barriers now because people are desperate to find people who know these skills and they don't really care how much you are. Or better yet, go create your own autonomy. Go bring to life because this is a time, never before has it been more economical. If I think when people say business, I'm like, yes, you have to buy some programs and some tools, but you don't need office space. You don't you're not putting ads out on papers. Let's be honest, an old newspaper ad or magazine ad was thousands of dollars. You can pretty much set up business under $500 a month and do the work and have a legitimate business that you're just going to start growing and scaling. And long-winded answer, that's how the creative aging came into it, because this is a message that needs to be out there, that women need to know, that they don't give up on themselves, that they don't. And let's be honest, who wants to retire? Nobody wants to retire. Everybody thinks they want to retire, but it's because they're not doing what they love. Because the minute you do what you love, you're not working anymore. Like I can work 12, 13 hours a day right now and I'm in a good mood. It's not like I'm tired. I'm not grumpy. I'm not like wanting a glass of wine at the end of the day just to breathe. You know what I mean? So that's how creative aging came to life.
I so empathize with that. And I think a lot of people do, because I think there is a group of us that I look at it as I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do for a very long time. And it's not a blame or a point fingers. It's just the work environment. I don't want to say workplace. The work environment has changed so drastically since I first entered. I think my first job, besides the waitressing and the working in high school and that kind of stuff, my first career job was 1995. And you look at that and you're like, okay, what was on the table for people in 1995? It was much more connected to what boomers experienced, right? Except it was a little bit more open. So I had more opportunities. Science majors were begging for women to enter. So there was a little bit more opportunity, a little bit more spread, but the vision was still really similar. It was you graduate, you go to college, you have a career, you retire from that career, and then you get to have fun. That was the story. And there wasn't so much that radical of a change. Internet came out and some people were grabbing onto that, and then they got to make a little bit of a change as they adopted that.
This is
Internet to me was a little bit slower.
Yeah.
People adopting, the radical people were writing blogs, right? Those were the radical anti-establishment. We're going to do this differently, right? And God love them. I think this is a little more radical than that. This is the Great Equalizer. It's like you said, there's no more barrier.
There's no more. You talk about, because internet, it was really hard. Like you had to learn coding. It was like, it was a whole different level of learning too. AI has removed that barrier.
Yeah. And it was, oh my God. Now all you have to do to create a custom GPT is just have a conversation with ChatGPT or Claude, however you want to do it. It's just conversational now. And it's upon the instrument to figure it out and delineate everything you just said, but you can literally just brain dump. And the reason why I bring that up is because as you talk about certain people in your life maybe being a little hesitant, I don't know that they can fully wrap their minds around how radical this shift is about what's available, because it's literally been a blip of time since, I've said this before, my mom had 3 choices when she went to school. She could be a teacher, a nurse, or a secretary. That was it. And it was radical for her to be a bookkeeper because she was good at math. And so we've literally come in one generation to where we're at right now. And so even the word retire has a completely different connotation now. It doesn't mean what it meant when my mom retired anymore. There's so much possibility. And so I always try to give a little grace when people aren't quite on board, or they're like, no, I don't know what that's all about. I should just stay safe. Okay. You haven't seen how unbelievable.
I know.
Right.
And you're right to give grace, because I'm certified in human needs. And one of the needs that is usually top of everyone is certainty. Yeah. New and change is very uncomfortable, because even if we're not happy, it feels safer to us because it's known. The unknown is, for most people, dark waters, the nebulous, and so let's take my sister, for example. I said, well, she goes, how do I even start? I said, just find a couple people to follow on LinkedIn in topics you find interesting and read up on it. Get curious. I love the word curiosity. Curiosity is my key word. It's never about, I have to, or even with my own emotional states. Let's get curious. Why did I have that thought? Why am I feeling this? Let's take a bit of the stress off and just going, because you're right. And for many of us who are in this field, we forget sometimes that not everybody, because the big rush hasn't happened yet. And why I think it's really important is that even you talk about the internet, early adopters have a much better, right? And this one, I would say, if you can get in front of the wave and be part of the leading team, there's great power in that as well, especially for women in our age, because right now it's not everybody, everything. And it's still new enough that you get in and start learning, and it's going to be growing. And if we can be ahead of that, like I missed the whole internet thing. I was like behind everybody. Like if I had known and bought all those .coms and stuff, like my goodness, life would be different. But this one I saw, and I think because there have been a couple that have come and I've been like, man, this one, I'm like, okay, no, this one's staying and it's going to grow and it's going to become part of our everyday lives in every single domain. And it's not all roses. I know there's one. That's why I love my sister, like cybersecurity. And I'm like, this is a huge field. Like we need it. Like it's super important. But to be able to say, let me get in. And it was like myself, it was just like, how do I understand how it can be used? If that's only the only reason you want to learn about it is so that you can understand how potentially you will be at the other end as a consumer of it, then just do that. Just so you know, because that awareness alone is very powerful and puts you in a much better position as things are coming out, as tools are being used, as your understanding of how it does touch your everyday life.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw what the CEO of NVIDIA
Yes, I
did,
love
right?
that. I love that.
It's absolutely not about having the tech background. It's not about
No,
rushing to computer science courses,
no.
bringing your
Human.
humanity to the table.
Yes. And that's one of the things I love, because I always because there's a lot of, I don't know all the data set that it was trained on, but it's definitely more male based. And so I'm very dedicated to, even with chat, like he'll put some, or I shouldn't even call him he. I had a really interesting, someone called it a her. I was like, do you know how it was so interesting? I was like, oh. I was like, Sarah. I was like, why do I always refer to chat as a male in my mind? I was like, that's something interesting. I'm like, why? I was like, ooh, old school thinking there, girl. So I got to give chat a girl's name and be like Cynthia or something. Chatina. My Chatina and I were talking. But I'll reply, because quite often the base answer back is very male dominated, traditional garbage. And I front back saying, that's old school thinking. That's not true. And I actually because I'm like, I know my prompts are counting. What I'm giving it and feeding, it's learning on. So my voice is in there, and that's important to me. I want it to, like, screw you, that's sexist or silly, or, I love prompting back saying, like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Why would you assume that's a man? Women are just as capable. Like, I have arguments with Jatina, because it does. Our voices matter in this instance. And I want to be part of building it with a true perspective from where we sit as women coming together, which is another thing with AI I love. I have never seen a more beautiful connection of women standing shoulder to shoulder together, and not like the old corporate where we're all battling and having to prove ourselves better than the other to get that one spot. This is screw you, man. We're bringing the whole table with us with thousands of chairs.
Yes. And that's, it is. It's a completely different environment. But I love the fact that you bring up that we have to have a say in it to make it the environment we want. I had a moment with Chat GPT where it said something to me about being emotional. And I responded with, I don't know that you understand the double meaning of that, or the intended, or the implication, I think was what I said, of that word when you're interacting with women. You don't tell women that they're being emotional. And so I literally had that training moment with it. We're not going to use that word. We're going to have to rethink that, because it has an implication that has potential negative consequences.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important for us to encourage more and more women to get into the space, because we want that voice to be heard, because the initial programming was from old data sets, right? That whatever data is available, that data happens to be dominated by a certain demographic. And that's is what it is. So now let's use that and shape it and make it ours. And I know you have a process with Lemonade where you're really helping women come into this space and not only own that transition, but thrive in it. Can you talk a little bit about Lemonade?
Yeah. So Lemonade is the branding, when I took basically the mindset behind launching your brands. And because people sometimes detach from their business as to, okay, I want to show up like this. And it's very uncomfortable when you're not aligned to what it is you're showing up, and messaging like clear. What is the value you offer? What is that outcome? What are we doing? What are we bringing to life together? And so moving through that thing, it's a lot of stages of, I was talking in an earlier call, and I brought the examples. If you ever dated a guy and you liked him a lot and you changed who you were to date him, that's really uncomfortable. It's not fun. And that's very much like our brands. If you try and show up and come through where you think you're supposed to be, because that's the good girl way, that's the right way, that's the traditional way, then you're not going to be confident in your sales pitch. You're not going to be confident. Sales pitch is cold. Even that's not a good term. I call it invitation. You're not going to show up as often as you probably should on social media. You're not going to be comfortable on the sales call. You're going to be thinking like, I have to make this sale. Rather than be like, look at what I have for you. This is what I can bring to you. But that's a whole process of discovery, of curiosity, of self. What am I doing? What is my mission? What is my purpose that I'm doing here? Sorry about that. And to really be able to move through a process to be like, okay, let's pull back the curtain. Let's actually explore. And that's where your whole branding process, to go through the mood boards, to find out like, what is that? Like, I'm known as like a rebel creator. I like to think in marketing, when people are zigging, I like to zag. Like, I'm so anti-status quo, have been most of my life, because there are pieces, successful cues left, but we don't want to get lost in what everything is doing. So what are those unique parts of you? And that is a question that a lot of people have trouble with, right? That self-celebration, that self-acclamation. I'm amazing at this. Yes, I have done that. So we look at like, where have you been and what have you done to bring you here? And now how do we formulate that to speak into where your clients are? It's because one of my biggest issues when I first did mindset, because I was doing many courses and it was like, I felt like I was on a rocket ship. I think I had been so buried and dead inside that it was like, I was going so fast in levels of awareness and new things. And then I think I was like, yeah, I've been, and then boom, I hit another wall. It's like, oh, there's more work to do. And so you can forget sometimes how to speak back into that first stage. Like even my own whole with spirituality, if you'd have spoken to me about spirituality where I was at corporate on the verge of running myself into a Mack truck, I would have just rolled my eyes at you and thought you were a weirdo. Whereas now it is such a fundamental part of who I am and how I live. But I have to understand when I'm working with clients, that's not where they are yet. But how can I welcome them if they choose to move into that, to not spirituality, but that awareness of being like, what am I holding? Even in my creative side, like we talked about what was expected. But when I said to my mom, like one of my biggest dreams, I wanted to be a storm chasing photographer for National Geographic. I was like, I love storms. I love clouds. I'm like, I love photography. I was like, all right. And everything that was on the creative side was like, that you're not going to make money, Sarah. That's not stable. That's not safe. And so we have all these old conditionings in our mind when we go. So we have the heart, but there's so many layers and barriers sometimes for people to allow themselves to let them go and see what we've learned from it and apply it to. So it's it's done in a marketing sense. And yet the marketing and the mindset are so beautifully interwoven to me. That's the process is like I call like my signature call is the brewmaster brainstorm. Right? Like it's all these little fun drink modes and, lemonade spritzer is a small package. And how do we do it so that for me, I want it to be more fun, right? I love play. We don't play enough in this world. We don't give ourselves enough space and time to think and just let our minds go wherever they may, because that's when the creative part comes out. But that's how the process gets them, because once they break through that barrier, you can't be stopped. You can't be stopped because realistically, we know like you're going to make maybe 10 offers. One of those will be out of the ballpark, right? But there's going to be maybe 9 that don't. And that's just business. It's not about you. It's not about who you are. Your value doesn't go down because also people will be like, here's one social media post with an offer and then, okay, I'm going to wait. And then nothing happens and they think they're a failure. No, it's just something missing then in the messaging. What did we not do? How do we use that to grow? So that's a process for them to discover who they are on such a deep level.
And that's, I think, one of the reasons why coaching is such a valuable part, because for anyone who's transitioning, maybe they've had a similar experience to my own experience, is you've built up a certain way of being in corporate or in industry. And you've touched on that in what you've said. There is not only an identity, but there's a protection that goes on, because inevitably you're not able to bring your whole 100% self all the time to that space. And so you learn that it's hustle and it's movement and it's go, and you're just blinders on. And when you come into the entrepreneurial space and it's all you, I think inevitably you have to spend some time rediscovering who you are without the corporate or industry trappings that you were so boxed in by, right?
Yeah, and those trappings don't appreciate the feminine so much, the feminine aspects of what make us so beautifully unique.
No, most of the industry that I've been exposed to is still based on industrial revolution
which was based on military.
And hierarchy. Exactly. There's a hierarchy involved, and you brought up competition. But what, as you move into your own space, oftentimes is you turn that competition in on yourself. And sometimes that's a very negative self battery. So going back to what you said, I really do appreciate what you talk about when you talk about the coaching, because I think that's a vital part of us healing in a way. Really, honestly, you have to do a little bit of healing when you come into your own space. Again, I say.
Absolutely. I still have coaches. I have more than one. Even my own coaches, I'm always like, do you have a coach? Because if you don't have a coach, I'm not hiring you. Because it's never, and even as we grow and hit a new plateau, there's new stories that pop up that we didn't even realize. And for me, a lot of it, like, I didn't realize I'd lost most of my memories of the first 20 plus years of my life. And not from amnesia, I guess I buried them. And as I started growing, it would be like, suddenly I'd get these flashes of memories and I'd be like, oh, okay, this is what, and I still, even earlier, someone was talking and I was like, I'm so good at, let's celebrate. What are you celebrating? Let's look at the wins. And someone said, what are you happy about? What did you do? And I was like, no, I'm uncomfortable. I was like, this is something for me to look at. Why am I uncomfortable still in self-celebrating where I know the importance of it, right? There's always next levels for us throughout, and especially entrepreneurial, because you're going to hit a certain plateau, dollar-wise, you're going to have a money mindset smack you up the head. Because a lot of people have money mindset issues, right? If I get to this level, will I lose my friends? Will I lose my family? Will people think more? And we may actually keep ourselves at a thermometer level of, oh, I'm used to being at this level. And if I go up higher, people actually will quite often do things to bring themselves back down so that it's safe again. And they're not going to worry about things.
And I wonder too, oh, no, that's never going to be healthy. That's beautiful to call that out. But do you think, I'm wondering how you see building a community around you as playing a role in helping you get through things as well, because how do you create that supportive space for women to collaborate and to voice some of these thoughts that get uncovered as you move forward, to learn from each other? How do you create that?
You just do. And then you invite people to it. You've done it. I know so many people in this space. I'm a part of probably more communities than I should be, because I really try not to join things I can't give 100% of myself to. But there's so many amazing people I've met along the way that I want to be. But it's just, I don't think I would have gotten as far as I have in the last 4 years without the power of communities that I am a part of. And what do they say? Build what you desire to have too, right? Like, you can join a community, or you can, like you have, build a community, and you can just beautifully invite people into it and let them know what it's about, and have it for the intention of, we need to do this together. Because even as an AI brand strategist, we'll have calls and people are like, I'm in a delay. I'm like, why? I've been doing my homework. It's okay. Let's do it together. That's why you have, where do we move forward to it? And to actually, where I say build it, and then if you're going to be part of one, first of all, if you're going to build it, lead by example and be vulnerable and show. And I always believe, live the words you're speaking. Don't just speak words and you should do this. You better be living it and opening the door, letting people in. But most people are going to be petrified to do it because it's so not in our natural culture yet to be vulnerable, to be open. I'm very open about my mother's suicide. I'm very open about my own potential that I almost did. Why? Because I'm like, I don't want anybody to think, because when I was in my darkest spot, I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only weird loser that couldn't cut it. And I didn't speak to anybody. And because I didn't speak to anybody, I didn't know that a lot of other people were feeling that way until I did. It was actually a Tony Robbins free event. And I looked up and there was like this giant, it was virtual, giant panel of thousands of women and men crying. And I suddenly was like, I'm not alone. This isn't a me thing. And the more I go, the more, and as I said, I just, for me, anybody who's feeling like that, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Is like, nothing. This is systemic in our society right now. There are so many people, and it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be. There are amazing communities. There are people who want to see you thrive. There are opportunities. There's always, and we're forgetting how to connect to that burning desire, that dream. And one of my breaking points, I had a conversation with my sister and we're talking about purpose because I hadn't found my purpose at that point for sure. And she said, who says there's purpose, Sarah? You live, you die. And that was my breaking point. I was like, what? I was broken. I was like, that can't be what this is about. Like, that just crushed me. I was like, my whole life, I'm like, there's got to be something I'm meant for. There's got to be something I was born to do. There's got to be a reason here that uplifts or empowers other people. And I think, talk about back to creative aging, it's like, how do I keep pushing myself to see where can I share that message so that if there is somebody out there who feels like I did, know that you're not alone. And there are so many resources and people and opportunities out there. And that's
100%. It's a whole different reality, I think, now. Because when I was first introduced to the concept of networking and community, it was transactional.
Yeah.
It was 100% transactional, and it was for the purpose of your own advancement. If you want to move up, you really need to start networking. If you want to get that promotion, it really is 95% who. So you better start networking. You better get into a few professional communities. And the rebel in me, screw that. I am going to walk into a room for the sole purpose of being fake. Because you don't say I'm here to get the promotion. You don't say I'm here to create a transaction with you. So the whole process completely turned me off. And along with that, one of the communities that was presented to me as the consummate networking community was LinkedIn. And so I avoided it like the plague.
I didn't LinkedIn also for years.
Oh my God.
I've been like, this is actually a really great community.
And I have to tell you that it is 100% when you are in an environment that has been constructed by a patriarchy and you are one of the women that believes in it, then you're looking at other women and saying, this is the way you must move forward. So I did have women in industry that were coaching me in that way to move forward, to network, to make sure you're putting your profile on LinkedIn and you're putting your experience. And again, I just am maybe I'm oppositional defiant before it was a thing. Like now I'm just never going to do that because you said I had to. And so when I came back with that entrepreneurial spirit and I saw, people call it the bubble, the AI bubble that exists within LinkedIn, I found a community. And it was no longer that networking dirty word, right? It was, holy shit, these are people that are going through the same thing I'm going through. Yeah. Or these are people that are rethinking entrepreneurial paths because AI just all of a sudden blew up what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that because the old school would be like on Facebook, I do a lot of story style posts because I'm all about message. And even AI imaging, like I'm like, how do I add a layer to my message through a visual that matches in intentionality and evoking an emotion? And it was always said you shouldn't post like that on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, I was like, I'm like you. That's why I said I'm a rebel creator. I was like, screw that. I'm sharing like a vulnerable story. And the post did really well. And in seeing more and more where it's, especially in the AI bubble, and I think that's a nod to the types of people going into AI of integrity, is they're so supportive. They're so like, I've never seen it. They're like, here's my code. Here's this. Have you tried this? Hey, this is a part. Like everything given, like all just, let's all rise together. Let's all support, understanding there's room for all of us in the entrepreneurial journey. There's so much possibility. So it is a really cool. That's what I was trying to my sister when I suggested that was LinkedIn. I said, go on LinkedIn. I actually put a post saying, people, I don't know this industry. Share, you gave me one.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, how do I harness that community and share the love like that? So I love that. Yeah, it's changed. I think it's changed, or we've just found the right bubble.
Right. Exactly. And no, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring that up is because it was a dirty word to me initially, because it really was just that transactional kind of thing. And that's not what it has to be. And I think that there are definitely supports in place And you've brought that up. So when you come in contact with women that are uncertain about stepping into those rooms, maybe they have that backstory, like I brought up, or they feel, okay, I'm not a spotlight kind of person. How do you help them build up that confidence and express themselves boldly or vulnerably, like you just brought up?
Well, again, it's touch on my word curious. Whenever someone comes to me and has that initial, "Ugh, I don't want to," it's okay. Let's be curious. Why? What are you worried about? What do you think's going to happen? What is the story behind it? And how do we now rewrite that narrative to be like, hey, and something as simple as if you're not want to post, then just go comment and share a word or two. Don't be at the forefront of it. And unfortunately, the truth is, there's two things. Whatever you're afraid of, it's because you want, outside of like a snake attacking you that you don't want. But when it comes to like normal actions, if you're feeling a fear, it's because there's something on the other side of that fear that you desperately want. And you don't actually get to walk through that unless you take an action. And it can be a most tiny incremental action, because that's what momentum is built on. Momentum is not, I'm doing 13 steps ahead in one leap. It's what's one little millimeter of shift can I get my new comfort level. And there's so many, I think of like with the dogs and stuff, there's so many tests where it's like small little things. And then when you look back, you see how far you've come. So just, as I said, if your first step, maybe that's why I'm going to bring my sister in because it's such a perfect example. I was like, here's a list of people. Just look at what they're saying. You don't have to comment a little bit, but at least get curious. See what's out there. See what's there. Then the next thing, maybe they'll spark. You'll see something. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to add a comment. And then you slowly build up the muscle of being like, okay, I'm safe here. I'm safe here, right? Like if someone doesn't feel safe, I'm not going to push them in full steam. I know there are some people that's how you train, and it can be incredibly because like I jumped out of a plane. It was the best experience of my entire life. I was afraid the whole way up. And that I wouldn't have gone 1 foot at a time. It was like, okay, we're going 60,000 feet up and boom, let's go jump out of a plane. And now I have no fear of jumping out of a plane because I'm like, this is really cool. So there are benefits to if it's something that is, if you have an opportunity that is make your decision now, then trust your gut. Don't listen to the voice in your head. Those are opportunities where I call them breadcrumbs. It's follow what your gut is saying, shut the voice down, and just be like, I'm going to take a chance on me. There's one of my expressions that I love that one of my coaches had said. I don't know where she learned it from or she came up with it, but I have it posted on my thing and it says, I trust me more. And that is one of my North Stars in my life is like, how do I get to a point where I trust me? And me is that very calm inner center of saying, I'm following a breadcrumb. I feel that excitement. I feel that ignition. And yes, there's going to be fear with that because it's something you desire. As I said, fear often to me is the guider on the compass. It's like, oh, I'm afraid of that. That probably means you want it. So why are you running away from it? Why can't we take one step towards it and not worry? Who knows? Like I said, I never in March of last year, when I did a beta online of Jenna from Secret Eye Society, would I think that less than a year later, I would now, and I have to say, I'm pretty dang good at AI and I'm an AI brand strategist. Never in my life would I have thought that was in my cards. But I took that first little tiny step to be like, what can I do from where I am towards something that excites me? And that's all it took. And then the next little breadcrumb happens. And then the next little breadcrumb happens. And that's where that certainty comes in. People are like, I don't want to take that first step unless I know exactly where I'm going. The problem is when you live like that, where you think is your max, you're selling yourself short. If you get out of your own damn way and let things happen the way they're supposed to, what's meant for you is actually 10,000 steps further than what you thought was for you. And that's the beauty of just small baby steps. It doesn't have to be big. Small is beautiful. Big is built on small.
And I wonder how much that gets trained into us because of the hierarchy that exists in a corporate or industry position. You can see what steps you have to take and you can make the choice to either make them or not. And it becomes this idea of, okay, I see exactly how to build my expertise. Okay, got those air quotes going, right?
Right.
My expertise has a path. and it's usually hierarchical. And boom, I know what degree I need to get. I know what course I need to take. I know what certification I need to get. It's all laid out. And you have mentors who have gone before that can tell you the steps, right? It's all very contained. And so I think sometimes one of the shifts is moving from that certainty to the fact that, okay, I'm not an expert in this. I'm a learner. Right. And I was listening to someone the other day talk about imposter syndrome is nothing more than your brain telling you that you're learning something new. You feel unsure about it because you haven't learned it yet.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely loved that. It's like, because you have to be aware that you're shifting from maybe a place of some expertise. It's bringing 28 years of experience in my industry to the table. I'm not a rookie. I can own that. But now I'm stepping into a place where, so it's like I need to be a learner, and I need to be okay with being a learner. And I'm bringing all that experience with me as I learn, but I need to be a learner.
And that's part of the grace, right? Because I will admit too, even as I entered things, it's there's this expectation that you're supposed to be perfect immediately.
Yep.
And when you can be like, okay, I'm learning something here. We normally all have what we call like a home question when things go wrong. Mine was like, what's wrong with me? It was anytime I couldn't do something perfect right away, right? Because that competition comes back and did, oh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get this right? And then I had to shift that question. I was like, what can I learn here? So I didn't do it perfect. Okay. But what can I learn? So I did this. It didn't work. Okay. I'm learning something. Sorry, someone's banging inside my door. And I think when we can connect to that more than, and a lot of it is, and that's why I say, I love being a creator over a consumer, because so much of what's fed to us is that, oh my God, superstar, oh my God, everywhere. And so we have this expectation of, if I do one thing, I'm supposed to be successful in 24 hours, or it means I'm a epic failure. That is so BS and so not true and so not how. And if you actually dig past the surface of what is out there in media and actually deep dive into the story of any of the people that are at the top, they failed. That's what they say. The successful people have failed more than they've succeeded. That's why they're successful. And yet we only see the success part, like, oh, YouTube sensation overnight. And then you actually speak to them like, overnight, I've been doing this for 15 years. You know what I mean?
You got 10x in 10 minutes.
Exactly. And so a lot of people are marketing like that. So they think it's possible. And people buy those courses and wonder why, because it's all layered. It all goes together. And that's just not how it happens. It doesn't happen like that. So it's being able to be, I say this with so much heart, because when I was at my worst, I was attached to certainty. If I didn't know the outcome and guarantee that I would be successful, I did not do it. I no longer took any chances. And when I finally learned, and that's why I ended up being certified in human needs, because I thought it was so fascinating. I was like, I went into all full on non-attachment. I was like, okay. And I have to say, such a more enjoyable and abundant place to live from. Because like I said, if we get out of our own way, there's actually more in store for us than what we even think is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful ride.
So as you continue to grow this movement, and as you continue to move forward with the women that you work with and the legacy that you want to leave, because it's just so evident in your energy and your positivity, what is your ultimate vision for how you see this moving forward? What's next for you?
As an AI brand strategist, I've only, in joining Secret AI Society, it's only been like 2 months. So I'm just in my happy zone there. It's just, I get to do everything amazing has come to fruition in this role. It is one of the best, even for learning. I'm so blessed to be surrounded by so many amazing in the community of the coaches, of Jenna, the leader, of the back-end team that most people don't even know, 40 people running around, and continue. So I personally, my goal for 2025 on my vision board is there are 3 books I have in my heart that I have yet to commit to. So I committed to 1 for this year. I want to write. So that's my legacy. I have no children. And so I'm like, okay, this is how I will. And that was my why. We always need to connect to that burning desire, that why, right? It helps us move. And so I was like, okay, I have no children. nobody to leave my stories to. So I was like, I want to write this book so one, I can empower and share some really powerful tools that are simple. I like simple as much as I love talking, but the actual tool to be able to move forward a little bit are actually relatively simple. And at the same time as getting to then make that impact and have that purpose. And then after I'm like, oh, my name will live on. At least I'll have my name somewhere out there. So that's one. And I've actually got 3. And so at that stage 2, at some point, I'm imagining it will go into larger speaker series. And as much as I have my vision board, like I have a couple of whys of why I'm building. Like I want to buy my sister a home. Weirdly enough, when my ex-husband, I would love to buy his mother a home because she's older and she's always so afraid and lives in an apartment. She can't do the stairs. So I'm like, I still love her. So I'm like, that's another one. I'm like, how can I build now to give back to the people that I love so much and show my appreciation and love for them and be a voice? Because one of the things I've learned, I'm not afraid of people saying they like her. I'm very blessed. I don't know if it's how I speak. I get very few trolls. So and even if I did, and She Is AI magazine, there's an article that I wrote that's the new coming out soon. And it's how to live with trolls. Because it's like, it's a thing. People get afraid to post like, oh, we're a machine. If they're a machine, then really who cares? If they're people, let's just understand that they have their own fears, right? Yeah. Having that ability to continue with the message, to speak, to do the book, to share. And for me, whatever role I can play to help people. Right now, we're at a stage where the world will improve through us at our level of what we're bringing to life, of our messages, of our humanity together. And if I look, especially at the younger generation, hurts my soul how just lost they seem. It's like, what can we put out there to, at the AI Festivus, I don't remember who said it, so I apologize, but someone said the tsunami is coming, so build your raft for those behind us. And I thought that was so powerful. I was like, yes, I want to build a raft. That is what I'm doing. I'm building a bloody raft so that people have somewhere to go.
I love it. I love it. Rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would be happy to have you on my raft building team. That is absolutely beautiful. I love that your legacy comes from such a place of sharing and collaboration. I love that.
Thank you. And I love, but you obviously do too, because you have this forum to bring people's voices together and to share and that's how we're going to do it. We have to lead the charge. What do they say? Be the change. I don't know who said it, but be the change you want to see in the world, right? Thank you for giving and creating a space so that I could be a part of it.
Thank you for tuning in to Empowered by AI. If today's episode sparked ideas, don't wait. Follow the link in the show notes to visit innovativeaistudio.com and download your free resource, created to help you put today's insights into practice. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes packed with more tips, tools, and inspiring stories. Until next time, stay empowered and keep innovating.